Welcome into the Birds vs. Boys post-game recap show, Eagles edition, week 1. If you are new here, my name is Aidan Powers. I cover the Eagles for Birds vs. Boys. We have our regular shows that drop every Thursday morning where we discuss the Birds, the Boys, and everything in the NFL with my co-host Kevin Messina. Obviously, this week we'll have a lot to talk about, both respectively with our teams and the league itself after a crazy week 1. So make sure you subscribe. But on Sundays, dropping Monday mornings, we recap our team's games.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones.
Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
So let's get into the Eagles game. A victory in week 1, survive and get out of Detroit, which is exactly what they did. 38-35 win in week 1 against the Lions. I think there was a lot of good. There were some bad. And it was like the perfect thing to discuss in week 1 and kind of what you expected to see. Speaking of what you expected to see, we talked about it on our show. Again, every Thursday it drops. I purposely did not watch Hard Knocks this year because I knew that I would start to like this Lions team, the energy that they have, the positivity that they have around the franchise right now. It was a sellout for the first time in quite some time. It's the first time this team has any potential since they were a wild card team and lost to the Cowboys in 2015. So going on 7 years now, and really just any time they've had any momentum of any sort since the Megatron days. So you knew you were going to come out and get a great punch from them. So speaking of things to expect, the Lions starting this game up 7-0. I believe we talked about it on the show. Foregone conclusion. Wasn't even doubting it. Didn't even get upset. When DeAndre Swift ripped off that 60-yard run, didn't feel like anything. It was just that, when I got my ears pierced, the person who went in front of me was a 6-month-old, and she didn't flinch. That's how I felt. So I was getting stabbed in the ear and didn't even flinch, didn't hurt once. That was the Lions' first drive and them going up 7-0. Foregone conclusion, totally expected it. The energy in that place, totally expected it. So I basically assumed this game was starting a 7-0, 10-0 hole. There's been twice in week 1s in recent Eagles history against the Jaguars at home and the Washington, I think it was just a football team at that time, at home where we were down 17-0 in the first half and came back and won. So 7-0 was small potatoes to me. Early on, the offense looked discombobulated. Jalen Hurts was taking off and was 0 for 5 passing to start and was using his legs. Now, Jalen Hurts is going to be this interesting case study all year long. You've got 2 first-round picks. There's a lot of guys in college that are really interesting. Unlike last year where it was a weak quarterback draft, this will be a good one. So you kind of have to figure this Jalen Hurts thing out this year. We'll be talking about it every week. You look at it early, he starts 0 for 5, he's running around, and you're saying, oh, here we go. But at the same time, I thought it was more so because the offense was discombobulated and really nobody was getting open, more so than him just panicking and taking off. I think he was forced out of the pocket a lot of times, and he just took off and run and made plays with his legs, which is great. Then he settled down, and that's what I like to see. I thought that was the most confident I've been in a Jalen Hurts offense in quite some time, and maybe in ever. This is what you wanted to see. Coming from last year to this year, you remember at the end of last year, you're running this bully ball, almost Army-Navy triple option offense where it's just, all right, we've got our offensive line. We know it's better than your defensive line. We're just going to run it, control the clock, not too much pressure on him to use his arm. Well, when you start in a hole like we did and really didn't have anything going early on, he has to use his arm, and he did it effectively. He did it on third downs, and when he did take off and run, I thought it was more so out of just the sheer pressure of the defensive line making plays and guys not getting open. So you want to see him make plays because he's forced to, not because he's giving up. I think last year what the issue was he would just take off. He wouldn't go through progressions. He wouldn't trust his arm. He wouldn't trust himself. You saw progression, which is exactly what we were hoping for. So he finished 18 of 32, 243 yards. He did run 17 times for 90 yards. Obviously, you don't want your quarterback running 17 times because they end up getting hurt. It's just the nature of the NFL. No mobile quarterback is durable enough to make that. Even the great Cam Newton broke down eventually, and he was 6'5". Jalen Hurts is not. So you don't want him running 17 times. But again, he was taking off early, and you didn't see a lot of separation from the receivers. You didn't like what you're seeing from the offense in the early going. But they certainly turned it around. 455 total yards on the day. So let's get into the first few drives where the Eagles scored. It is so abundantly clear A.J. Brown is the break glass in case of emergency guy. It's just, if it's third down and you're in a panic and it's like, all right, if we give him the ball back, things could go really south right now. It's just break it, A.J. Brown. That was it. And you could tell early going just like the difference of what having him makes. And I don't think we truly realized it till we saw it on the field. We have been so deprived of a true number one receiver for so long. And I know we had Alshon, but A.J. Brown is even better than Alshon Jeffrey. This was the most confident and competent receiver that we have had since Terrell Owens. That is not a hot take. That is just a fact. This guy had 10 receptions for 155 yards in week one. A lot of them came on third downs. A lot of it came yards after the catch. I thought the most impressive play of the game to me was at the end of the first half, where if you score, you get the ball back to start the second half, and you kind of can start to put this game away. That's exactly what happened. It's 3rd and 5. Jalen Hurts puts the deep shot up to A.J. Brown right over his shoulder. This is what we're talking about. Progression from Jalen Hurts, believing in his arm, believing in his receivers, not just taking off and running around like a deer in headlights. Throws it perfectly to AJ. AJ catches it, and then he's dragging a corner to the 5-yard line. They'd set up for a field goal, but they got points at the end of the half. They got the ball back to start the second half, and they immediately scored there. So you spot yourself a 10-0 run before the Lions can even touch the ball. That's why you defer on kickoffs. That's what you should be doing as an offense. Analytically, everything says defer, get the ball to start the second half. That's because you can put points on at the end of the first and then points at the beginning of the second. That's exactly what they did. That's perfect, technically sound, fundamental football from the coaching staff, your quarterback, and your new wide receiver one. To just cross this over, Philly fan lifestyle. A lot of you are Eagles fans who are probably Sixers fans. I mean, how many times have you watched a Sixers game where there's 4 minutes left, they're up 4, the shot clock's winding down, and you're just like, and they're playing some random team like the Hornets, the Pistons, and it's almost like they're, the team is just sticking around, and you're like, all right, we need to put these guys away. Shot clock's winding down, and Joel Embiid hits a fadeaway jumper over an outstretched arm or gets an and one and gets to the line and just seals the game. That's what it was like watching A.J. Brown. It was like, okay, they could get us off the field right here. Nope, never mind. We hit A.J. instead. And it felt like that all day. The yards after the catch thing, again, is something we knew he had the potential for. It's been evident his entire time with the Titans. But until you see it live and realize the difference that it makes, you're almost in shock because we're just not used to it. Like this, it's about to be Halloween season. If it feels like in Salem, he'd be considered a witch. I didn't know that people could catch the ball and break tackles. I haven't seen an Eagles receiver do that in so long. There was one play where he shook himself, did a spin move, had more space, but he honestly like juked his self and went backwards after he did a spin and broke 2 guys. It was hilarious to watch. So I'm just so excited. I hope he stays healthy. He's had hamstring injuries in the past. I think what you're going to say week 2, they're going to involve Devontae Smith a lot more. He had 0 catches, barely any targets. He had the one drop on the sideline on the early going where Jalen Hurts bounced to the outside, hit Devontae, who was by himself, and he dropped it. Very uncharacteristic of him. What you're going to see on film this week for the Vikings is, they're trying to heavily emphasize A.J. Brown to use as a security blanket for this quarterback that they're trying to develop. We got to blanket this guy as much as we can. All right, well, then that's when Devontae Smith steps up. This was the whole point. Like, it's just nice that see these things come to fruition when you make these moves. It's like we needed a wide receiver one opposite of Devontae. 10 receptions, 155 yards in the first half. You need somebody else aside from AJ so that you can't focus all your efforts on AJ. Okay, well, then we have Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. So let's stick with the offense before we get into the defense, because obviously I know that didn't go as well, and it's fun to talk about the good things that happened, right? So second half, again, like we talked about, first half ends, gets points. Second half begins, gets points. On that drive, that was my favorite situation of the day. So here's how the sequence goes. Jalen Hurts takes off, he runs, he slides, he gets hit in the head. It was pretty obvious he had already slid, and it's just a 15-yard penalty. So Nick Sirianni gets into it with one of the Lions players who had a 15-yard penalty before for hitting Jalen Hurts. He didn't get the right guy, but I just love that our coach was just going off and talking shit. And then you saw the guys go after him. So Dallas Goedert, Zach Pascal, they both went after the safety of the Lions who took the cheap shot. He swung on the Eagles twice. It was just like the fans were booing. It's like, I don't know what you guys want. He took a cheap shot on the quarterback and then took two swings. Like, it's the most obvious 15-yarder in the world. So he got kicked out. So you've got your players fighting for your quarterback, your coach fighting for your quarterback. The very next play after that is a screen to Goddard. He takes it down to the 2-yard line. And the very next play after that, you get behind your offensive line and Boston Scott scores. But what would you like to have more in an offense and in a coaching staff? We've talked about just like the chemistry being right. And we talked about it, and Kevin's talked about it with the Cowboys. The vibes are off. Like there is something wrong there. And it's probably because nobody believes in Mike McCarthy, which is fine. But I feel like here the vibes are strong. And it's like, it's just good to see the proof in the pudding. Like your guys are fighting for your quarterback. Your coach is literally fighting for your quarterback and screaming his head off at the opposing team. And then it's not just you using words, it's you getting actions and be like, all right, screw these guys. We'll take your 15 yards next play, give us another 20, and then we'll take a touchdown too. Fuck you. We're up 17 now. That's what you get. That's what it should be. That is what football is all about. It's just going mano-a-mano and taking over a game, which is what the offense did. Again, 455 total yards. They put up 31 points in week one. I couldn't ask for much more. And then at the end of the game, it's similar to what you saw last year. We got the ball back with about 4 minutes or so after a long Lions drive. We'll get into that pretty here soon. And Miles Sanders bounces it. It looks like he's going to be stopped on third down, takes off to the 50, and all of a sudden you're good to go. And then on that next sequence of plays, we had it to a 3rd and 1. We got stopped, and then we did a sneak on 4th down with Jalen Hurts. People were saying it was close. Half his body was over the line. Half his body was over the first down to go. So you finish it off with the run game behind your offensive line, which is what good teams do. The other team doesn't see the ball again. That is exactly how you handle it. Good for Miles Sanders, who has been cast off here. Part of it, I think the same thing, but that's also my view on running backs in general. It's like, why pay a running back? I could find 4 kids in college, who will do the same thing. So I do feel good for him, though. 90-plus yards rushing. And, of course, he scores a touchdown in week one. Of course he does, because he didn't have any last year. He's like the most fantasy, write this guy off, do not draft under any circumstances guy who's just like threat level midnight, do not draft. And then, of course, he has 90 yards and a touchdown week one. So good for him, man. Great. That's great to see. 4 rushing touchdowns, 4 different people. Again, that's the offensive line doing their job. I thought they held up well. I liked what I saw from Jalen Hurts. Is he a perfect quarterback? No. But I thought he improved. I was trusting his arm, which is something that I didn't last year. The offensive coaching staff was trusting his arm, which we didn't see a lot last year, considering our run to pass balance. So there is some improvement to be made, but if you told me at the beginning of the season that the offense would come out and score 31 points and put up 450 plus yards of offense and AJ Brown would have 10 receptions, everyone had said, check, check, check. Sign me up immediately. And that's what we got. So that's really exciting from them. The defense. We have to do the bad. It was yin and yang. That was bad. Jonathan Gannon, I don't get it. I will never get it. Why is this super genius getting these head coaching interviews? We talk about proof in the pudding and wanting to see progression. We saw the same exact shit from him yesterday that we saw last year. The Lions were 9 for 14 on third down. Couldn't get off the field. We had 1 sack, and it was on a play where Jared Goff dropped the snap, so it threw the timing off, and it gave us an extra second to get there. And we gave up 35 points. There was a drive where they converted on multiple third downs. They had Jared Goff for a sack. He got out of it and got picked up the first down with his legs. Jared Goff with his legs. Darius Slay dropped a pick. It was just like, again, talking about progression, you don't want to see the same stuff from last year. It's everything that the Cowboys are saying about themselves. It's like, we're seeing the same stuff that we didn't develop, where we have the potential to improve and we didn't. We have the penalties. We have guys not named CeeDee Lamb getting open, not getting open. It's like you're running into the same exact issues. And then I feel like I'm doing that with Jonathan Gannon. It's like you have the same issues. Like there's something wrong where you allow these big chunk plays. You can't get off the field on third down. You can't, with this defensive line, to not be generating enough pressure is insane. To give up 35 points, like, again, I expected a fight from the Lions. I'm not disappointed with the outcome in any stretch. A win is a win. We'll talk about that at the end. But it's just like you did everything that you did last year. It's the same shtick. I don't know what this guy does in these interviews that coaches love him. And he is this rising star in the league. I don't get it. They improved at every single level on defense. The linebackers, Kazir White was awesome yesterday. Again, like watching A.J. Brown and being like, oh, a wide receiver 1. This is awesome. I haven't seen this in a while. Having a linebacker who's competent, that was helpful. James Bradbury with the pick 6. He also had great coverage on a few different routes. Darius Slay gave up the touchdown, which is, interesting. But again, they improved corner, linebacker, and then obviously a defensive line, bringing in Jordan Davis too. Now, Jordan Davis was effective. He only played 32% of the snaps. You'd like to see him more because when he was in, he was effective, and that's when they generated the most pressure and backed the Lions up. That was when they were in those 2nd 11, 2nd and 10s, and when he was on the field. So I think you'll see more of him, but you got to utilize him. Why you traded up for this behemoth, to put King Kong in the middle of your defense and do just that. Take on 2-3 guys, blow everything up, let everybody else get there, where they're hyper focused on your 6'6" Goliath in the middle, and you use them for 32% of the snaps. Like, I don't understand anything that Jonathan Gannon does. It looks like on third downs, they play this soft coverage. They give up a lot of yards. They give up chunk plays. They don't get to the quarterback. It's like you improved everywhere. Like last year, you got the benefit of the doubt from some, not all, because you didn't have the talent. All right, well, I know it's week 1. You just signed your safety and traded for him 5 days ago. So it's got to come together a little bit more, right? Like there's a lot of new pieces, a lot of guys playing together for the first time since we didn't play in the preseason. I get that. That's fair. But at the same time, it's like I'm seeing the same song and dance. And it's just annoying because I think this team is really good. And I just don't get this whole Jonathan Gannon, super genius, future head coach, future rising star of the league. I just don't get it. Every time they take the field, I see the same thing, and it doesn't matter who's on the defense. It doesn't. And now we have a really good defense on paper, and we're still getting the same result. So, again, they gave up 35 points. The Lions converted on 9 of 14 third downs. There wasn't a lot of pressure on Jared Goff, only 1 sack. Yes, the pick 6 was cool. James Bradbury, aside from the missed tackle and DeAndre Swift on the second play of the game, was very good. So seeing the new additions play, we were like him and Kazir White was awesome. Jordan Davis was effective when he was in. So at the very least, I mean, the guys that you got are hitting, hopefully, and they stay healthy and they continue. And hopefully we kind of form together. Again, he gets another benefit of the doubt because it's the first time where all these guys are playing together. It's the first time that your safety has really been on the team for the past week. So it doesn't get easier. You're covering Justin Jefferson next week. Anybody who's been a Philly fan knows how this goes. That kid is having 200 yards next week. That is how Philadelphia sports work. So again, recap, I was pleasantly surprised, but at the same time, not surprised at all because I expected the Lions to put up a fight. This is a game where you just get the win and get out. It's like scheduling Appalachian State where you're like, oh, easy tune-up game. We'll just win, and it's a 1-0, and we'll just get everything right, and we'll get on to the rest of our schedule, and we'll have a tougher game in week 2. No. That program always gives people fits. I don't know why anyone schedules them. The Michigan game obviously sticks out, but in recent years, like they almost beat Penn State. They almost beat North Carolina. They beat Texas A&M. There was another team last year that they almost beat. Like it's like every time you schedule Appalachian State, this happens. They have the same energy as the Lions, where it's like, you think they're this bad team, but they're actually better than most people think. They're going to sneak up on you, and they play with a lot of energy, and they're not going to quit, and they're going to fight till the end. Dan Campbell is going to have the Lions fighting. They're not going to be these winless losers that you're used to. They don't have the depth to really become a playoff team, but they are far from this loser franchise with bags over your head and only win 1 or 2 games and get drafted first overall. They're going to be all right. They're going to be fine. They're going to win some games this year. So that is a game you win and you get out. You look around the league, there are a lot of teams who went on the road, and it's supposed to be an easy week 1 victory. You look at the Niners, 6.5-point favorites against the Bears, lost. You look at the Colts. A lot of people picked them to win the division. The Texans, they're not even playing to win. They're having a tank. They at Oklahoma City Thunder are jealous of what the Texans are doing, and they tie. So it's just one of those things. And the Packers, again, Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVPs. They run that division every year, lose on the road against the Vikings. So you're looking at the Eagles. It could be way worse. That could have been a loss week 1. For them to go in there, score 38, offense puts up 31 and get the win, that is a takeaway. They won week 1. They got out of that situation with a crazy crowd for the first time in a while, with a program with a lot of energy, and they won. So you look around the NFC East, I think the Giants are going to be better than a lot of us expected because Brian Dable's just a good coach. I think the Commanders, it's hard to tell. I don't know what the Jaguars are going to be. So it's really tough to tell with them, but they do get the win. And then the Cowboys, 6 to 8 weeks without Dak, that sucks, and that we talked about it earlier with Jonathan Gannon, same problems. Cowboys, same problems. So we'll see there. I think it'll be an interesting NFC East. So right after 1 week, you can tell maybe we misjudged some teams, maybe in a good way and a bad way. So for the Eagles, we're on to week 2. Just like how I knew the Lions were scoring 7 to start that game, I know Justin Jefferson is going to be uncoverable. I'm going to be back doing this same show no matter what next Monday, and I'm probably going to be talking about how Jonathan Gannon's defense couldn't step up and Justin Jefferson is breaking my heart. But I'm happy. I'm excited watching A.J. Brown. I hope Jalen Hurts is good. I'm happy for all the guys on offense. I'm just happy to have Eagles football back. Great to start it with a win, and let's keep it rolling. I think we could really win this division. Let's keep it going.